Hey, welcome back to Location 1980 podcast. Today's featured guest is going to be Corey Clark here, a.k.a. Corki. We're joined again with my co-host Eric Ringman. I'm Jesse.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Fortune. This is Location 1980's art podcast, and we're glad to have Corey back. It's been a while.
Thank you for having me here.
When's the last time you were in Orange County?
Maybe like a month or so ago. Yeah, a little over a month.
Right on. For our audience, just so you guys know, Corey's one of our resident artists. He used to be, I guess, but still, homie. Extended Artist Network.
Pop
like
up.
To call it.
I
Yeah.
pop up here.
That's right. Anytime you might pop up. In fact, you started the.
Confirmed.
You started the Outside Artist Network pass. You know, the monthly pass.
Yeah, the membership, the 1980 membership.
That's dope. Yeah. So, Corey, how long did you have your studio here?
I think I was only here for about like 10 months, not quite a year.
Really?
Yeah.
But it seemed like you were hanging out maybe before then, or no?
Nope.
How'd you hear about 1980?
It was through, was it Allison? I can't remember her last name. She was like an art curator, but she threw a show here one time, like a collaborative art show, and then I like live painted in the alleyway.
Yeah, Levers.
Levers,
Allison Levers.
yes.
Shout out to Allison. What up?
Yeah, Brian.
Yes.
Yeah, so through her, and then I was just living down on the peninsula at the time. I was like, oh, this gig is perfect. It's like 5 minutes away. And then I was friends with Amy as well. So when Amy moved in here, it was kind of more on my radar.
When her studio she's outside of myself. Well, I've been here the whole time, but she's the longest tenured artist studio here, which is about 6 years, I think.
In some kind of tangential way, she's the one who got me here as well.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
She'll be on, shout out to Amy Kells. She'll be a guest here before too long. Excuse me. And then you also left under not dire circumstances, but when you left, it was because of the pandemic kicked in, kind of more or less?
Yeah. It's kind of like this, like for me, it was kind of this story because I did my first solo art show the month before, and then we were doing like a closing softer show, and I was revealing some other work because we cleared some wall space and I had some newer work that I didn't have space for, and so
because you sold so much art.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that was March 15th, and so that party got canceled because that was like the lockdown date, so it's just forever ingrained in my brain. And then I just like went out to the desert because I had nothing else going on. Everything was shut down. I was like, I don't want to be locked in my studio. And
beware the Ides of March.
Yeah.
So now you post up in J Tree proper, Joshua Tree?
Joshua Tree, yep, proper.
And I guess not everybody listening is local, so they wouldn't know. Joshua Tree is not just a YouTube album or a national park, it's also a city.
Yeah, and it's not just the place to go take mushrooms either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I just get that as as my response of like, you live there and yeah, do you just do mushrooms? And I'm like, no, I don't actually. Yeah, it's like, no, there's a lot of other like cool creative things. Like the desert is vast. There's lots of plants and stuff, but it gives me space, and space to me is infinite potential. So the more space I have, the more infinite potential I have.
It's hard to have more than infinite potential.
I know, dude, but if you have more infinite potential, the better, right?
Yeah. I like it. It's great.
Well, I want to add, I don't think I've gotten to say this to you. I got to say it to Lauren, who longtime fans will remember, was on our second episode, that she was out at your place for a couple months just recently. And I had a video call or two with her, and she was so amazing. I mean, you could hear it in her voice. Like, she was just enamored and kind of, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but like, it was this thing bigger than she could really describe, the way that the place made her feel, just the environment and the space and everything. And it wasn't quite landing. I wasn't quite getting it. And then when I got out there, which was about it was about 2 months ago now, the first time, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. Especially in the morning, just the way the wind comes in, the air moves. It's this huge space. It was really special. So even though it was only like a night, I was really glad to be out there.
Yeah, it's a real magical space.
So tell us about it. Like, so you went from being in a warehouse with a bunch of other artists to being solo during the height of the pandemic.
Yeah.
How was that transition?
You know, I really like the kind of like the reset of my life and just like pause of like of the hustle and bustle and of everyday life. And I was already wanting to transition my my artist medium, and so the thought of that in the like hustle and bustle and flow that I was in felt like already like overwhelming to try to make such a drastic shift.
Because here you were painting mostly.
Yeah.
And now you're mostly doing glass.
Yeah, mostly doing glass work. Working with borosilicate, flame working glass is what they call it, or lamp working. Making pipes and bongs and marbles and jewelry. Yeah.
When you've got that new line of those little bottles, it's like
perfume bottles. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I call them alchemy bottles. They're not just for perfume. You can put essential oils.
You can put alchemy in them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
we put something in them and you get something else out.
I mean, like that medium to me feels like the most like expansive and like infinite, like what you can do. From like you could make hanging like chandelier stuff to like wall art to drinking vessels and jewelry, and like you can pack an incredible amount of detail into like the smallest little thing that like fits in your pocket.
That's so cool.
It's like seeing something that's like, you know, just like an inch size that's like hundreds of dollars, and it's just like, whoa, like that's kind of wild to me. It's
just cramming the value in there.
Yeah.
The artisan nature of the old school kind of trade, it's got to be one of the oldest, like with ceramics. It's neat that even now it's still cutting edge.
Yeah, and like glass in itself has been around for thousands of years, but like the industry and the type of glass that I'm working with is extremely new to humans. And there's no other humans in any generations other than like the generations before me of pipe making that have taken this type of glass and innovated it more than any other humans or group of humans. So the type of glass I work with, like all these colors and techniques and tricks and tips, it's like no one's figured it out. It's like still being figured out to this day.
So you're in the wild west of
and medium. It's like, yeah, exactly. It's not like if you go into like soft glass, like you can go to Italy where it's like thousands of years and those guys have dialed it in and they just know it to like the most that you can know, where this is like
infinite.
Yeah, like I agree. I talk to like the maestros of my industry and they're like, I don't really know, we're still figuring it out. Like there's like certain things is like we get away with this, but then you go talk to this other guy and he's doing it completely different.
That's
like cool. I just finished a 2-day like 10-12 hour course, and it was like we were learning, these two guys they were doing the same things but completely different approaches. We were working with what's called like, we call it like millies, which are these like tiny images in glass.
Real quick, can you give us a specific, like what was the workshop called and who was teaching it? Or do you not know
it was at the studio called Temple of Doom, right here in Santa Ana, border of Costa Mesa. The two artists was a.k.a. and Krunkelstein. One was from, I think, Virginia, and the other one was from Wisconsin. So they flew out to teach these classes. And
could anybody take it, or did you have to like be qualified, or was there like 100 people there, or was like 5 people there?
It was like 5 people there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyone could take it, but it's kind of like useless knowledge unless you know how to apply it and stuff like that. Like
a big practical aspect, like not just a teaching, but like a hands-on element to this course, I assume.
Or just straight observation?
Just straight observation and just
Okay.
pretty much observation and really like over their shoulder and ask any questions along the way. And
Nice.
they open the format of like, okay, like what do you want to learn? So then we can like put some direction into the class rather than like, this is exactly what we're teaching. Part of where like the economy and things are at, like a hyper focus of the class was being like most like proficient with your time to make money. And just
So it's more business style.
yeah, I wish I could remember this quote that he had, but I wrote it down. So soon it'll be ingrained in my brain, but it's like basically like being like the most proficient way to do things is like the best way to do things because it just allows you the opportunity to do so much more.
And to keep doing,
yeah, and it's like you have a goal in mind, and so trying to be like most proficient with that goal so you can achieve the next goal at hand.
Cool. So while we're still on the topic, because we definitely jumped way ahead.
Yeah.
We're like we're starting in the real time, which
Well,
is
I'm
cool.
already holding in like 3 different questions right now.
That's
Yeah.
great. Is this so? What you learn from this workshop is that something like now when you go back to J Tree, go to the office are you going to be able to?
Implement what I learned.
Just
Yeah.
pretty quick.
There's definitely some big things that I learned that it's like I can't wait till I go home and like go mess with this. Like, so like the process of like making. Have you ever played with Fimo clay?
Is it just
Or like
plasticine?
taffy? Like Fimo clay is like it's like basically you just like layer up whatever color and then you like have an image in the middle and you can stretch it down and like Fimo clay you'd do that and like put it in the oven and it'd be all these like clays that are all layered and trippy that are all sliced up.
And if you chop it up, then it's
Exactly.
cross section.
Exactly. It was like a big hippie thing, I feel.
So you learn that.
So that's like kind of what Millie is. And so we learned, and like I've known of probably like 3 other different techniques and approaches to making that. And then this class, one of the dudes had like this other wild approach that I'm like, I like that one.
Sweet.
Like that one resonates with me. And like I have like some materials and stuff that's like colors that I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with or how I'm going to use it. And these techniques is like a really good way to
But you're gonna do something.
use it.
That's cool. Eric, you have 3 burning questions. Can you give us at least one of those?
At least one. Well, all right, I'll go for what I think is probably the most interesting, which is you were talking about how this is this Wild West, how like you'll talk to these cutting edge guys and they're even going, we're finding it out. Did you know that was the nature of the field when you got into it? Or is that a pleasant surprise, that's continued to open up as you've gotten more skilled and more networked?
I mean, in the field, as when I got into the field, I would say that back in like 2015, 2016, and like, so I had no clue. I would just like blindly, aimlessly, like going into like trying to figure out more about the industry and glassblowing and pipe making specifically based upon my college professor. She was like a glassblower and she blew the same type of glass, but she would make like marbles and pendants. And we did like an art trade one time for some stuff. And she, in that like conversation, she was just like, I think you should check out pipe making. I think you'd really be into it. And so she gave me a couple artists to like find, and like I Googled them, really didn't find much. Didn't really like think to look on Instagram for the artist.
Shout out to Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram's an art portal.
But crazy story was like some friends of mine were going down to Costa Rica for this glass show, and they invited me along to go, and the plane tickets were $420. And I was like,
It's a
this
sign.
is meant to be. Like, I have to go. So I just went to this art show thing with them, not knowing what I'm doing. And then they have everything planned out. They're like talking to people and stuff and curating a piece that they were purchasing. And that was like my first introduction into, it was called Elbows Pool Party was the name of the event. And it was like a collaborative show. So this artist Elbow invited a few dozen artists out there, and
Hachi snoring. Really?
Oh, what
Get
a
out of here,
cutie. But yeah, so it was this big dino
Get
themed
her out of
show.
here. Sorry, man.
You're good. Oh.
Get out of here.
She knew we were talking about her.
Hachi. Sorry, guys. This is our studio dog. She's pissed right now.
Would you...
Beat it.
Something's up. Well, that's not really legal.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. But it was a good show,
yeah.
the Costa Rica.
Yeah,
Mr. Elbows
yeah.
host.
Was that like a week or like a 10-day?
It was like a week show, and I have like a little
like
joke.
like a week long, not a week. It was a strong show.
Oh, yeah. Like I went for a week. Is that weird? Yeah. I went for a week, and then like it was like I think maybe the whole show was like just like a day long, but there was still like everyone that came for the show and all the artists involved were still hanging out.
Okay. Afterwards.
Yeah.
So we jumped ahead right away. We're just gonna deal with her real quick. Scott, you gotta.
This dog is like Stonehenge.
Oh, yeah.
It just will not go.
Just so you guys know, we have our studio dog is Nikita. Her name's Hachiko. She's gorgeous, but when she knows there's something going on, she wants to be right in the middle of it.
Well, it's funny because this is one of the most friendly, well-tempered dogs, maybe the that I've met in my life. And yet, if she doesn't want to go a certain direction,
stubborn.
Dude, I've moved dogs twice that weight easier than her. I don't know what it is.
She's strong, man. So we dealt with that issue.
All right, we're back to the above table action.
Yep. We did jump right into like the modern day, starting with the pandemic and how you shifted. Because when I met you, you're almost doing painting, and I actually didn't have any background on you because, like you said, you're only here 10 months, and at the time, we had like at least 15 other artists, and then also no one could tell like the pandemic was coming or whatever. We were focused more on your show, and I don't even think in your show you might not have had glass. It might have been almost all painting.
It was all painting. There was not even touching. Yeah.
And one day we were talking, and I don't know if we were blazing or what, and you're just like, you're like, actually, all the artists I know are they're all glass blowers. I was like, wait, what? It caught me off guard, and you're like, no. And then like you kind of hit me that like you had came from a background, you just conveniently, I hadn't seen it because we never had a chance to set anything up here. Like, I imagine if you would have stayed longer, we would have probably changed the studio to like, accommodate your medium.
Yeah, we had like some small conversations about that because I like glass blowing was like this like burning thing in the back of my head that's just like eating away and like corroding at me.
It's almost like that painting was just getting in the way.
Yeah, and it was like, but I'm like, no, I gotta like do something with this painting. These paintings, like I don't. Maybe I'd been working on them for like 6 years or so at that time, or 5 years, like this like kind of body of work, and so I was like, I gotta do something with it. So like in my head, I was like, I'm going to do this solo art show. I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to like celebrate the work.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to shift my focus and attention. And that just like simultaneously like just happened to go with COVID. And I wouldn't even say like I would have been able to like really I would have just been figuring it out here.
Right.
And so like once I moved out to Joshua Tree and I just like had the more time and space and like just like the moment to like stop what I was doing with my life and just reflect. The desert gave me that like space to focus on glass because it's like I was approaching 30 years old and it was like this is like a pinnacle point in my life. It's like glass is by far like one of the hardest mediums, and then the learning curve is like super hard to get over. Yeah. And so it's like you need to like pack in as much torch time as you can, as quick as you can, kind of, in order to like level up, in order to like start just like having an understanding of the medium, to like have deeper in-depth conversations with people about making things.
To flex on it. It almost reminds me of talking to high-level musicians, you know.
Yeah.
Again, with music, shares the similarity of the infinite potential kind of a deal.
Totally.
You're talking about the desert.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess most arts do, but it seems like that was so based on working, like the guy said, proficiency, like to just crank it out, or you can't even play.
And I love the correlation to that because between music and like glass blowing, because like for glass, to me, there's no other medium that is as like collaborative besides like music.
Yeah.
Like music, it's like you have to collaborate in order to like soft glass definitely is like way more of like you have to have like a team and it's a bigger whole thing. But like with this type of glass, like the temperament is like you just have so much room with it of heating it up, cooling it down, and so like I can make something and hand off to you, and you can do something and hand it back to me, and we can like hand this thing off so many times, and then we can like make an infinite amount of like small things or large things, and like you and I could just work on making 100 small things or like one big thing and different things.
But you could also work solo.
It's really like it's an interesting like there's like people have just like a straight like business is not really like it's more craftsmanship of like the medium and like just a business, and they're just like making bongs and pipes and like that's
it's
it.
Very
and
artisan.
Like, or just like just like could be out of clear glass, no color, and like the only like expression would be like shaping, and that could just be based upon like the actual function of it. Right. So it's like not like an expression other than like functioning the best or something.
You're talking about the other spectrum.
Yeah, and then you have like people that like have like these artist solo careers and they do not collaborate with people and they just do their art part, and then you have like people that only collaborate and like that's like their whole thing.
Are you allowed to do like a little bit of each?
Yeah, and then mine's a mix. Like I'll be like I have a bunch of solo stuff I'm constantly working on, and then like this week I'm like sending prep out here, and then I'm receiving this other piece from another artist to like a lot of my glass work I'll hand carve patterns into the glass. And different things like that.
The little J trees are fire, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll throw a little landscape. Nice. I kind of stick to like little miniature landscapes to patterns.
Corey, we like I said, we jumped into like the modern day pretty quick, and rightfully so. You just came quite literally from a workshop, and straight into our studio. But usually with our guests and yourself included. We'd like to kind of start a little bit at the beginning. Like I was a late bloomer. I didn't get into art until like my second year of college. What about you? Like when you were a kid, were you, a lot of people say that like an artist stereotype, and people see you, just FYI, when, tell me if you heard this before. People will say this almost exact words. Oh my God, you're so talented. Have you always been an artist? And then like you take that like for sure as a compliment, but there's like a wide variance of answers. And in my answers, actually, no, I wasn't always an artist. I was a jock, and then I was an artist. And I think we kind of share that too.
Yeah.
But, like, so when you were a kid, were you even thinking about like art or glass?
I've always had a burning desire in the back of me. Like I can like remember like in school, like being like tracing things like under paper and like tracing things because but it was like to that answer to that question it was like no, because like I couldn't draw a truck, and I'd be like no, but I could trace the shit out of that truck.
The desire was clearly
and I wanted to do that, but I couldn't.
Well, and also too the more you trace, like the more then you can.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. But even then, like it's like I'm not that type of artist, and so like when with that question, it's just limiting thoughts because it's like because I couldn't draw the way that I thought that's how you had to draw, I would be like, no, I was an artist. And I remember like I've spray painted like every scooter, every bike I ever had. I remember spray painting like wood in my backyard, like wanting to do graffiti, but like growing up in this like deep suburbs of Orange County, it's like that's not even like there's no graffiti right.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Like that culture,
the first 3 decades of my life.
That culture, it's like, but it's like that. Like I grew up like motorcycle riding and doing action sports, and so like that kind of like you know,
So you were like
anarchy.
but you're still like. It sounds like you were an artist, but you're kind of like a square peg in a round hole kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just you're still willing to like. You were doing art things, but you weren't exactly an artist.
Yeah, and I didn't even really think of it as art. It was just like I just had this desire to like spray things with a spray
Custom,
paint. Yeah, like I was like junior in high school, like spring break. I was like bored, and so me and my friends painted racing stripes on my car, like because I just wanted to like paint things.
Wait, Eric's a car guy. What kind of car was it?
1990 Toyota Camry, baby blue. We painted like bright blue racing stripes down it. Had like an air horn in it. Like
that's 20 extra horsepower.
Yeah, that's exactly what the cops would say. Like,
shout out to the cops.
Yeah, and then I found like Banks Powers stickers like for their like exhaust, and so I slapped those stickers on there.
So we can't let that slide. But you were doing art stuff, but like you mentioned briefly that you were doing some action sports and stuff like that. Was that one of your first loves? Like, it's like usually like when you're an artist, regardless of what time it hits you, there is maybe something else you are also good at, and then like you transfer out of it or into it. Sometimes people just leave art and do something else remarkable.
Yeah.
Other times you've done something cool pretty well, and you kind of know, like for me, like being an athlete, I knew at least that if you practice harder, you will be better regardless of what anybody else does. So like when I found art, I found that same mentality. Like I was like you, I can't draw like figure drawing 101 or whatever. Totally sucked. But by figure drawing 102, I was better just like, I'm going to suck less,
yeah.
suck less. And then all of a sudden you don't suck. But so when you were doing action sports as a kid, was that like BMX racing, like fucking fruit boots?
Just like desert dirt bike riding.
Yes.
Just like free ride out in the middle of the desert, go to like chasing hilltops. Like one hilltop to another. Like what? Motorcycles are like one of the craziest like things to me. Like motorcycles where like man and machine become one. Like there's like one of the most like explorative like machines that a man can like go on. Like you can't
go there.
Yeah, and you can get up to like tops of peaks of hills like very quick, fast, single track trails, and like way faster than any other way pretty much.
When you're using your body so much.
Yeah, and really you're fully part of it. Like, yeah, and you're like...
Did you compete at all?
No competing. I mean, I'd just do like fun desert stuff. Yeah, like little poker runs and stuff, but it was just like the free riding and just like riding just in the desert.
What was your most memorable rig and maybe moment like with some buddies or something? Like was there a particular place or did it all kind of blend together?
Kind of just blended together, dude. I was just born into it.
What were you riding on that?
I have like a 250 250cc bike was kind of like the last kind of couple bikes I had. Yeah.
Do you have one now?
I don't. No. So like to kind of answer, I don't have one. Okay. I would now being in the desert. I like think about it, but so like to answer kind of your questions like pull this into some full circles. Like the idea of like being an artist growing up, like my answer is like typically no, but I have like the thought of these memories of these desires. But like even that being like my staple answer in high school. Like I spent 2 years doing photography and doing like art photography. I'd be doing like heavy photoshopping and like making art, but not thinking I'm making art.
Right.
You know, not calling myself an artist, but I was like, now I just reflect on it, I was like, oh, I was trying to make psychedelic Photoshop art in like, I was a big fan of Alex Gray at that time. And so I was like, yeah, doing kind of things
like really heavily Photoshopped then.
Kind
when
of.
you cite Alex Gray as an influence,
yeah, not as, but just like not even know what like psychedelic art was at the time, other than like knowing who Tool was and like Alex Gray's association to him, and like a side tangent. Like growing up, I got really into video games, and I was like really on a computer, and I had a computer in my room until like middle school, and then the computer broke, and my parents were like, "No computer." Like in your room or whatsoever, like you can only have use the main computer. So like learning things on the internet and reading things on the internet, like I didn't reach that kind of stuff and have my own computer until I was in college. And so like, yeah, I knew who Alex Ray was, but like only because I've like read some stuff on like an album cover or something, like that. Like my information was very like limited.
It's weird looking back on it now. Your parents might have did you a solid right there. You see some of these kids and they can't not touch their phone or not be online at that same age.
Yeah.
Which maybe like these are the times we're living in, but when it's a choice still, you still could not do it.
Yeah.
But some people are like, oh, I got to, but like you don't really have to. But especially at that time of your life, they might have hooked you up.
Yeah.
Then you think like, well, I'm not in my room 15 hours a day playing games.
They wanted me to play sports, and so I just like went on the sports run, and then like you said, the passion was motorcycle riding, and so to bring it, I love full circles in conversations, and there was a point in which I was like, motorcycle riding is this passion, but it is really expensive hobby, and I'm really feeling like I want to be an artist.
Nice.
And I'm like 3 years into college, and I'm like, I really want to be an artist. So I was like, I got to give up this hobby. And so I like made a mental conscious decision. I sold my motorcycles and like, I was like, okay, I got to like put that hobby aside. I want to like focus on being an artist. And like, they say it's like starving artists, you're going to be broke. So you're like, it's an expensive hobby. And like, if I get hurt doing that, it's like going to pull away from it. And
absolutely. It's funny how too, like if you do switch, like people don't know how vulnerable a statement is to be like, I'm going to give up something I really love to become an artist, and the first thing they hit you with is like, you're gonna go broke. What are you really gonna do for a living? How are you gonna eat? Like they're never like, oh, that's great. Oh my god, follow your vision. They're like, sucker, like true.
Why
do you assume this shit?
It's so brutal. It's like, all right, well, I guess I'll start on a good foot.
Yeah, because I'm in my 40s and I'm gonna be miserable.
My mom told me that she was here not too long ago and she rehashed that story. She told that to a couple artists because I was in community college and I took drawing 101 or something. I think that's when I met Scott. I was like 95, and I was so stoked because my light bulb went on like yours. Like when you made that decision, like I'm going to give up dirt bikes. Mine was kind of made for me. It's like I'm not going to be in NFL. I'm not going to be I was a pole vaulter, a diver, this random sports. Like I'm not going to the Olympics, and so it just like was one of those days where like you're probably in the car blazing like, it's not gonna work out, man. I gotta, make a move. Yeah. And then I remember I did art, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I figured it out. I'm gonna be an artist. And she was like, yeah, right. She was like, that's a good one. What else you got? Like this, like, oh, brutal. Yeah, but it was good because it made me like, kind of like, check me off the ledge. Like, am I bullshitting? Like. Or am I really like, actually, I sidestepped that jab. I was like, oh no, I actually am going to do it. And not only that, I'm going to show you, if you're going to be the first detractor, you're going to be the first fan.
Yeah.
Just as quick. Let me flip it. It took a couple years, but.
Yeah. I feel like kind of, but I feel like we kind of need that because that's like, 100%. We need to be like checked or else we like, oh no, like, I am like this artist or something like that. And then you're like, yeah, and you're like, kind of like, I don't know, sometimes I don't know, with glass work, the quality standard is so high of like what work is like acceptable to sell and put out into the world. And so like, I kind of hold that like kind of own standard to my like own art and self. And even to like, a thought I had about like my first thoughts about this place here at 1980 was like I did that live painting thing here, and then I'm like, I want to be there. I want a studio there. I want to do this, but I'm like, my art's not there yet. I'm not there yet. And so instead of like pushing and being like, well, look at me, I'm this artist. Like it's my time to. I'm like, no, I just wanted to like refine. And so then when it is my time here, and then everything synchronized with that, it was like. Yeah. I'm actually like showing up in like the presentation that I received from that. I was like, whoa, like things are like more put together and like it's a little more refined and not.
Sounds like the marketplace. Well, then, so 1980 itself is a marketplace, just the property and the culture. And you will find out, like, from other artists where you're at, or, you know, higher level of professionalism. But it sounds like in the glass game, like, the market checks you before you even get out of the door.
Yeah.
You'd be embarrassed to show it, or it doesn't work, or, like, you know, so many, before you even stamp your name on it, it's gotta be dialed in.
And I have so many, like, I have too many mentors, really, and friends in that, like, have been doing it for 25 years, and, you know, in between that, now and that. And so it's like, I don't know, I like with glass, like now I get most things like appraised before like it hits like a market to like, okay, like this is like the price ranges that I'm thinking that this is worth and things like that.
And
and
who is that? Like in Joshua Tree?
No, it's out here in Newport Beach, down on the peninsula. Peace of Mind OC.
Oh, okay. Shout out to Peace of Mind.
Yeah, Ruzi and Megan over there. Ruzi's the shop owner.
So
Megan's...
they can give you an objective, critical, like kind of range.
Yeah.
Appraisal.
Yeah. So I met Ruzi in Costa Rica on that trip. He was like the kind of middleman between my friends and the artist for this piece. And like I always joke around that when my friends went to go buy this piece, I was like, they traded cash and me for this piece. Because like it was kind of these things of like, they like I just have this like cartoon story in my head of like them like getting handed this piece and handing them cash, and I'm just like walk over to like the other side of the transaction, and then I'm just like hanging out with these guys because it was like kind of like happened. I was just like, who are these guys? These guys are cool, and you just like bumble around chatting with those guys for a couple of nights.
From Noobs too, or
yeah. Like Ruzi lived like 15 minutes from my parents, like on the other side of the 91 freeway, like. Nice. So it was just like, well, like this, we had to meet in Costa Rica, like small world. And then he opened the shop down in Newport right after that trip, and so I went on a little festival tour, live painting, and then I got back and from that, and I'm like, I should probably get a job. And I had just been like working for like a weed delivery service, and I was like ready to like transition from that. And he opened up the shop, and then I'm like, still that teacher's recommendation in the back of my brain, like you should really check out. And I was like, what a perfect opportunity.
Did you work at a shop?
Yeah, I worked out at that shop for 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
It's kind of cool because in a way, it's still working for him. You just give him the shot.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that, like that's like, because I learned how like so many different things, like how a human starts a small business, small storefront, like. How are you paying your bills? How are you paying your like employees? Like all the like logistics to like make and run things like you do here. It's like the kind of, I love like picking those brains of like, you know, people just consume things and just think it just like happens sometimes. And right. Like, but it's so many logistics that go behind the things. And like typically all that like is like put onto one person and things like that.
Yeah, spread it out.
So through there, like they have a glass studio in the very front where they do demonstrations when they have glass shows, and artists will come and do like a demonstration. The last time I was here, that's what I was here for. I did like my first demonstration. It's called Friday Night Pipes in front of their shop.
So that's like a little check mark for your career right there.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I gotta go back there and do a demo. Like, like it's not a full show yet, but like I got a demo in.
Cool.
So that's where like I first like learned there, and like they would have a friend that would come once, twice a week and blow glass out the front, and I'd just be watching, just waiting for customer to come in and just like hang out, watch them blow glass. And then like certain days would be like, go try this real quick, I'll watch the counter for you. And so I'd like be tinkering on there trying to do something. And
nice. You said you've been able to meet like a lot of your kind of contemporary mentors, or essentially artists that are still alive, like I'm assuming like Snodgrass and artists that are OG. And then he's probably went through the transition of like what glass used to be, and then now like how cutting edge he
it's
is.
like from him there's been like a couple different
Some
generations
leaps.
of like it's pretty like distinguished. It's like these like little core like generations.
I'm slightly ignorant outside of the Netflix specials as far as Glasgow and stuff like that, some YouTube stuff. But like, is he like kind of a guy that's so like, because usually people that are that generational, they're already gone, like we lost them, or they're not making contemporary work, or you can't get their opinion on what, like, are they doing new stuff now, or is it like curmudgeon? Like, do the old school glassheads, are they like, this is how we did it, or are they more are they quicker to adopt the new style stuff? I'm just curious.
And like that,
as far as aesthetic goes,
like him, like, man, I think he's like in his 70s, like maybe 60s. He's like very much, I've been doing it, I think, this way, and he looks like he's kind
his
of
work
seems like the same approach with him. I feel like the bit of like the next generation of glass blowers kind of adapted these, like, did a little more like exploring from there, and like innovations, and there's big jumps of innovations. And so I think a lot of those guys, I feel like, adapt a lot of like the newer techniques and stuff.
That's the direction. That's where everything.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
So who are some locals, or like, you've traveled quite a bit. I know you did a tour last year where you kind of got to spread your wings a little bit. Did some time in Colorado, and was it, I don't know, Utah or Vegas, right?
I went from Joshua Tree over to Arizona to New Mexico, and then up Colorado, and then back the same way.
Solid loop. Is that just for art in general? That's a good loop. But
yeah,
like for glass, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, it was pretty strong. I didn't have too many friends in, like, I went out to Flagstaff or Sedona to visit a friend. I didn't really know anyone out there, but I scooted over to New Mexico, and New Mexico was like pretty full. I could have spent like a month in New Mexico.
You Santa Fe, or was it Albuquerque?
I started in Albuquerque, actually, outside of Albuquerque. My buddy
505. Shout out to the homie Joey.
You remember? Yeah, I tried to meet up with Joey when I was out there, but I just went over to my friend Roy's, worked with him, hung out, kind of grounded down.
Does he have a shop, or is it just his
home studio in his garage? Yeah. Did a podcast with him, the only other podcast I've done.
Nice.
Yeah. And then like, he took me into Albuquerque where we met, and introduced me, took me to like a studio out there, introduced me to some other local guys, and kind of got a connection in Albuquerque, but didn't really work in actual Albuquerque. But then scooted up to Santa Fe and linked up with my buddy Orion Glass, and
it's pretty up there too, huh?
Yeah, I really like Santa Fe. I just linked up with him, but didn't work with him until on my way back down. But that was like just a good like touching ground. And then my work trip really started in southern Colorado and West Pueblo.
Okay.
And then from there is like went up to Colorado Springs, some family there, saw some studios, and then worked in Denver for like a month.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to share with our audience, because I've done a lot of art road trips myself. Like one time I can't remember, it's like 83 paintings in 90 days or something like that, from Mexico to Vancouver. And when you did your loop, like, you were set up probably even better than me. So you're driving to Tacoma with the OG camper shell. But so artists, so for art fans that know, like, when an artist shows up and they're from out of town, sometimes it's not like, we're not on $1 million coaches with chauffeurs, or some of us don't have even a significant other that's driving. So in order to do what Corey's talking about, like in the trips I've been on, you got to like be the navigator, the PR person, the booker. You got to make sure you're showing up on time. Plus you're doing laundry, washing your car. You get a dog.
Yeah.
So you got to have dog friendly places. You got to worry about gas money and like when to sling, when not to sling. Like, you know, can I just do a pop up real quick, make some quick money for gas, because the budget might not always be there. So when we talk about these tours, it's not all glamour and glitz, but it's what's necessary to like essentially like kick the door down in the market. Like there's no other way to get into a market than just go there and like be like, I'm here. If nothing else, like make the work or meet the artist. Artists are always going to be what I found very welcoming, like into the scene. But it's cool. Have you found benefiting then from that trip? Because with all the trials and tribulations, just to go from A to B, once you do go through that, I've found it's extremely rewarding because now you've made the trek, you post it up, and now you're in somebody else's environment. It like makes your ears better or something. Like you learn on a higher level.
Yeah, so many just seeing so many different approaches. Like everybody has their own different approach and their ways of going about the same thing. In
a different environment too.
Yeah, exactly. And so just endless connections. The most beautiful thing about like the industry that I'm in is in Instagram. Like there's like what I do is I hit up my buddies that are glassblowers and for a while and be like, I'm going to this town or this city, like who's there, like who should I hit up or something like that. Or I'll just like organically be like following somebody or just like something like that. And
hey
like,
man, I'm on the front door.
Yeah, hey, I'm coming through town, like you want to meet up? You were like da da da. And so the best way is like when you have like an introduction, they like know somebody and we have mutual friends or something. Vetted. But like that whole trip was pretty much like one friend's recommendation from another friend's recommendation to another friend's like I mean I ended up meeting Scott because of your recommendation. So it was just like it was very much on theme, and it was like going to meet people and staying with them. Like nice. Yeah, like my friend Andrew Mitchell, super cool glassblower. Like he was another recommendation, and I was supposed to like. We were talking on it back and forth, and I was like, yeah, maybe like 2, 3, 4 days or something. Come in, work. We'll do a couple collabs and da da. I was there for 3 weeks. Yeah. Like it just turned into like my base. Like I was in and out of that space, but it was like,
but you vibed.
Yeah, we were like still working on stuff as like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go over here and work with this guy and stuff, and like we still have these other collaborations going on that like are in the midst of things, and so nice. And like I think. I lost track. He's probably got a better number, but we were at like 50 to like 60 collaborative pieces from then to now.
Nice. I'm hoping that I'm almost assured that you have at least one case of work in your truck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So before after we break, we'll bring some stuff back and maybe you just give us like a hands-on, and for our listeners that aren't watching, we can describe some stuff, which is kind of fun. To be able to describe what I was showing it, because it's like you really gotta pitch it.
Yeah, it'd be very descriptive.
We'll see. Eric, do you got any questions about the being on the road as an artist?
Well, you know what I'm so curious about, and you said this once before, how glass is so collaborative, and I was really surprised when you first said that, and I'm glad that now we've got the opportunity to dig into that, because as somebody who's not a glass blower, I'm not I think it's fascinating. I think the two greatest inventions of man are glass and air conditioning, but in that order. But I don't personally do it, and I assumed that it would be this really insular, like you go in your studio and you get super hardcore with yourself on it for these long periods. And I'm just so curious, is that like 2 or 3 or more people together in a session? Is it you do part of something, you like mail it to another guy and he does part of it? Or I mean, I'm just, it's a black hole to me. Like, what is the collaborative nature of glass? It's kind of the type that you're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of all over. Like, so like the you're right. Everyone's going into their like hole and things, but the whole like the way I think about it is like everybody went into these holes into glass, and then you got to come out somewhere, and so you come out this other end and you're like have this skill, and so in order to like collaborate with people, you had to like go into the hole and like come out with some sort of skill in order to collaborate with somebody. So and they've like put in that kind of time to like come up with something. So like you have like 2 basic forms, I would say, of collaboration to break it into simple, and it could even be beyond that. But you have like patterning and then form. So it'd be like patterning, colors. It could be dots or lines. It could be infinite amount of different ways that you make a patterning. If you make it look like a wood grain, like and then you have like in which the actual physical object, like is it a cup, is it a bong, is it a marble, is it a pendant, jewelry, like, so then you have like shape, form, and then it's like patterning. And so you have like, you could be like patterning, or it could be like sculpting, like somebody sculpts monkeys or giraffes or infinite animals, like in the classic the guy sculpts skulls, like what that's like one of his main things. Like he's known for his specific skull. Like if you saw a 2-dimensional painting of his skull, you'd be like, that's an a.k.a. skull. Yeah, okay. And there's like so many different renditions of that, like 3-dimensional skull drawn and painted.
And then to collaborate, so if one guy's good at form, then the next guy could pattern it, or
both. So it'd be like, okay, you and I are going to work for the day. You do all this patterning and you have all this form you're coming to the table with. I have the same. So let's start off. You give me your pattern and I give you my pattern, and you shape up something with my pattern and I shape up something with your pattern. Right. And so it's like, I'm known for this particular shape of a bong or whatever. And so like, I'm going to make my bong out of your color. And then you're known for making, sculpting these animals. And so you sculpt some of those like animal independence or something like that. So
these patterns that you're getting in exchange with each other, what's the, it's like a primitive, right, that you're turning into some other object. I mean, is it like a sheet? Is it a tube? Is it like a square?
It comes in typically rod and tube. So you have solid and hollow form. So it's like with these like it's this fun like play of these two, that it's like of these two they all break into these other like infinite things. So like solid and hollow, you have the diameter of it. So it's like how big or small of a rod you start with depending on what you're making, and same thing with your hollow tubing, and like kind of same thing.
Seems like a lot of options.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can get a tube and then make it into like a rose or something.
Like, let's just break it down. Solid form, you have rod, pretty easy. You could go like 2 millimeter or like 20 millimeter. Great. There's like that. You go into hollow form and you're like, you have an inner dimension and then you have an outer dimension. So the width of it and then the thickness of it. Right. So like this cup, you have like the outer width and then you have how thick it is. How thick this is a lot different than this thin cup. Right. So like that in the wall thickness matters.
Sure.
And like that has its own whole different breakdown in dimensions of like
it's really like a
medium.
Well, that form factor of like the thickness with respect to the overall diameter, can you then play with this by like shortening it and fatting it, or stretching it, or like flaring it, or like you can kind of twist with it all these ways?
Exactly. So like so like depending on what I'm making, I try to get something that's in the closest realm of that. And so like if let's say I only have like glass like this big and I'm trying to make something smaller, so I would pull that down and shrink it down and like cut off parts of it that I want to get the ideal shaping. Or if it's small and I need it a little bit wider and stuff and still keep that thickness, I just get a little bit longerness and I'll just like bunch up that glass together and build that body of mass into whatever.
So many techniques and
and then you can take solid rod and you can turn that into hollow in an infinite, not an infinite, but in a handful of different ways.
Well, let's try not to bore our audience to death with these hypotheticals, because it'd be a lot cooler like watching you do some of these things, which I'm sure we can link to some videos of you and some of your friends making some different works, and I bet there's some stuff where you're like, nah, I don't show that.
I mean, so like the industry is pretty like much like it's kind of like, hey, this is how you do it, but like good luck trying to do it,
right?
Kind of thing. And like
nice.
like kind of the founders, like you mentioned, Bob Snodgrass, like he came up with this like silver fuming technique, and I felt like this set the precedence of the industry because like he talks about it and he's like, I came up, figured this thing out, and it's like this color changing glass, and he's like, he says he thought about it for 2 days of like holding it and keeping in that secret forever, and then he basically just told everybody he knows
and it was just
ever knew. Yeah, he like made a glass blower or something, and then be like, "Did you know that you can do this?" So it's just like more of like spreading of knowledge and stuff. And so that's pretty much like kind of, I feel like, the foundation of it. You know, I feel like there's like a certain level of like, you know, you gotta maybe like put in your dues in order to like receive certain information. There's like probably some sort of like gatekeeping in like that realm, but it's like you just gotta put in your time. Earn your stripes.
Once you're ready, the door will open.
Yeah, or else it's just like wasteful information. And like,
yeah, for me, like it boils down to like if those teachers and those collaborators, those artists they're being proficient, like you said, your newest teacher was talking about. If they're busy doing that, that means they're taking at least a small portion or a big portion of their time just to talk and teach someone else. So why are they going to do it with someone who's not ready? You know, it's just like, But once you are, then they are. I think that's refreshing in today's day and age to have to earn it a little bit, especially in art, because like a lot of people could get a quick come up because they got 1 million likes or they're viral, or you put some paint in a bucket and poke some holes in it, swinging across the room, and it's cool, like for like 5 minutes or whatever, like. But anybody can, you know, you can do that. Or like you said, there's different levels of doing it. Yeah. You can be a master at it, or you can just like do exactly what the instructional said. But if you're trying to get to like a precipice of a very specific medium, like there should be like some steps to it, like, you know.
Yeah, I think
it should be natural too, because it's like that's how it boils down to. Like, people they're gonna have time to.
I feel like I've like adapted. I feel like I would describe it as an old school mentality versus like I feel like a lot of people my age are like, it's like this mentality of like reinventing the wheel, and rather than like learning from like the people before us, it's just like, oh, I have this little bit of information, and I'm just gonna like try to like reinvent something, which is like good for like exploration. And I feel like that's where like, I don't know, it's always like these paradoxes of things, because like with like minimal information, you have these much more like organic thoughts and like pure to just you without other influences. But at the same time, it's like if you learn what people have already done, you're not like there's like, I feel like organic ideas, like if you're going down this route, like you'll eventually come across these ideas on your own, but like someone's already done that. And so it's like, why not just like skip ahead a little bit and then play off of that. And I feel like that's where like, you know, some good innovation comes from.
But that's a great point to have. We're gonna have a stopping point, so we're gonna take a little break, and when we come back, I want to get your case out and show our visual audience some of your work, and we'll describe our best. Me and Eric will give our best descriptive narratives to your work without your say so. We'll discover it for
fun. Hey, Orson Welles got people to think aliens were coming here using only his voice, so you know we can make something special happen.
All right, so we'll take a break and then we'll go from there. Hi guys, welcome back. We're back from break. Location 1980 Art Podcast. I'm just your host, Jesse Fortune.
I'm
my co-host, Eric Ringman, and our featured guest of the night, Corey Clark, a.k.a. Corki. Hey, what's your Instagram, Corki?
Corki's Portal, CorkispOrtal.
Yeah. Team effort. Good job, guys. Yeah. Also,
speaking of team efforts,
we're about to do a little demo, and actually, it's the first time on the 1980 podcast, I think, that we got down with some like the things you can get right now.
Well, we've always had the
background
guest's
piece of art.
artwork hanging behind the guest.
Or wearing
Or in this case, Jesse's got the sweatshirt made by Corey.
And also the glass.
And also, yeah, I'm over here with my basic fucking
and the paint.
clear glass.
We have a true modern day Renaissance man.
But yeah, now we're actually going into it with
product.
We're pointing right at we pointed at it a little bit with Bert, but now we're literally hands on.
This is great. So Corey, you have you could be like a Pelican case salesman, dude. You got gear, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know anybody else that's not a musician that comes with like straight stacks, like ready to go. So you broke out a case. You got some of your pieces. What we want to do for our visual audience and the people listening too, we're gonna have you talk about one of your pieces. I mean, earlier we were describing rods and tubes.
Yeah.
And then so these were at one point rods and tubes, and now they're some of your best work. Some of your newest work?
Yeah. It's a
available
handful.
work.
Yep.
And that they are in shapes for the listening audience that to me are astounding, were once only rods and tubes.
Yeah, and they're also, to be clear, they're all look like to me smoking devices. What you smoke in them, it's up to you, but they look like they probably could smoke cannabis at least.
Yep, that's exactly what they are.
Nice.
I
All right,
picked out a case that was just primarily pipes because that's kind of what I got inspired to blow glass by versus jewelry and marbles and other stuff that I make. So this is some classic,
which it's expanded into, but this is where
yeah.
it began.
So when it comes to like pipes here, you have like dry or wet. One holds water and one doesn't. So there's certain pieces that have different downsim apparatuses, and some hold water and don't. This piece right here, this doesn't hold any water. It's called the dry pipe. The shape in itself is called a hammer based upon kind of the shape of it. It's kind of like a hammer a little bit.
And that's like a little 3-inch.
Yeah, we're looking at like a 3-4 inch length. Would you say that this is designed for a right-hander or a left-hander of a person?
You know,
And it could be used by either for sure.
yeah,
But
yeah. People would call this like a right-handed pipe, but it just depends on like the individual person. Like I'm ambidextrous, so when I blow glass, it looks like I'm left-handed. So like all my tools are on the opposite sides of like most of the other people I like work next to or with. There's a few other people that kind of that same
get
kind
down
of
like
thing.
that.
Yeah. This just fits better. I don't even technically understand or know like what would is it because the pipe is in your left hand or you're lighting it with your right
well,
hand?
so that was my follow-up question. 'Cause
like-
this is a whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm starting
so,
to realize.
like-
Is like, do you hold the lighters typically with your dominant or non-dominant hand?
Me personally, I
Both
hold
of
a
you.
lighter with my right hand, and I like to hold the piece in my left hand. So I like to use my thumb as a carb. So like this piece in itself is
Done the same way.
designed to fit in more comfortably in your left hand, but you can still use like an index finger comfortably.
I'm also ambidextrous, so for me, this would be. I would prefer to have the pipe in my right hand and my flame on the left for whatever reason. For this particular one,
that's
because of the carb. The carb is on the left for everybody listening. So we have.
I guess I'm the odd man out then, because despite my experience minimal with piano, I'm very much right-handed, and I tend to be lighter in the dominant in the right hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's the danger.
thing,
You want to
yeah.
have control over it.
Yeah, so I primarily
The
put
torque.
the carb on the left side because that's like a preference for a lot of people. Every once in a while, I'll throw one on the right side for those weirdos out there that smoke with the lighter in their left hand. I'm just kidding, but every once in a while I'll do that. But like back and forth, I used to be like every other one I would like switch up sides, but I just kept getting stuck with what you're describing, the left-handed pipes more, and so I was just like, I'll make one every once in a while, but I think for the most part, it's just like it's on the left side.
Right.
Like I've just like it's easier to just make that decision as like this is like a more of a staple thing to do versus like when I get to that step, like having to contemplate like should I put it on the left or the right? It's just like this is what I do.
Business as usual.
Yeah,
And also, do you
exactly.
find it reflects in the sales? Like, I'm sure if if it was a problem, people were like, hey man, I really like this, but if you kind of kept hearing that, could you put the...
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that you hear and people put in their hands, and they asked me how to smoke it, and yeah, it was like, yeah, most people kept just buying the left-handed pipes, and so I'm just like, I'm just going to keep doing that.
Now this says 24 in quotes on the bottom. Is that because it's 2024 or like the 24th in a series, or
That's
what's
a
that
year.
Plan? That's a year.
Yeah.
Right. So this is new, super fresh.
Yeah, that's a newer
material.
thing. I've been trying to like scale a lot of things down in size because I travel so much and I have so many Pelican cases. So I've been just trying to like maximize my real estate in my Pelican cases.
In the case, this case is like a 2-layer. It's what, 18 by 24, and it can hold what, 10, 20 pieces. Seems like. Yeah,
just depends on how big they are and what they like. When it comes down to like these like bigger pieces, like I only can fit a few of those into a piece or into a case. They're like big hollower forms. There's a lot more components sticking out of them. They're a lot more expensive, being like more bongs.
So this one in particular is red. It's about 10 inches.
So now we're onto a different.
Yeah, we're onto a new piece. We have a table full of about eight pieces here, and this is the biggest one, the only one that looks like all red. Could you tell us like how did you take this? I mean, in basic terms, maybe dumb it down, but like from going from your material to this.
Yeah.
Was there like 5 steps you could do? Or?
So like this particular piece, you buy hollow tubing that's in these specific colors that I wanted to use.
Which is red.
Red.
Is it a particular red? Obviously.
This is transparent.
I think
red.
it's called like Red Elvis. Nice. I believe is the color of this. And then a staple color that I use for my carving, how I get these like patterns into it. It's called Blue Caramel. And so it has so much silver in it that when you heat it up, the silver comes to the surface and creates like an eggshell on top of it. So with the diamond little tool that I use underwater, I chip away at the glass.
For those of you listening, the bong itself is red, translucent red, but then there's patterns all over it, little sections of patterns, and then I can see where you carved. I've seen your studio too, so this is where the little face shield is, and you're in there with the. Do you have the jeweler's glass?
Well, I want to hit the description a little harder.
Oh yeah,
before we get into the process, so we don't leave everybody behind. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we're looking at about like an 8-inch tall or so bottom end, kind of the shape of like a spindle or what's that thing called that you really yarn onto?
Or a thumbtack, even.
I would call it more of like a bell shape.
Yeah, it's like a bell, but there's another flare on the top and the bottom. A spool kind of shape.
Yeah.
And then there are segments of it that are the original, just the straight glass, and then there are major portions that have I'm gonna use my words, and if they're inaccurate, we'll correct it later. I'm just gonna spitball right now. Yeah, they're like a coating, and it has a kind of abalone like appearance to it in terms of the multicoloration, and then there is a design clearly intentional and not random that has the appearance of being etched through that abalone, where it's got a nice dark, it's bluish, it's almost blackish kind of charcoal color that's forming a variety of patterns that are like at the intersection of George Jetson Aztecs and streamlined modern Art Deco.
Nice. Well said.
Future ancient artifacts.
I'm with it.
Definitely. Hashtag future ancient artifacts.
Yeah, like Damien Hirst. Yeah. The little scratches and stuff. Like, is that something where if you do it too hard, you could break the glass it's on? Or is that not even a thing? You're just like kind of drawing with the edge.
Tell them all about the pattern.
So like, if the piece in itself has like already some structural issues to it and some hairline fractures, the vibrations can make any of those things like come out more. Sorry, what was the question?
Just tell us all about the process of that patterning and making that, because that's something that when you first showed me that's very novel.
Yeah, it's just
It's
like
very intricate.
it's just like a specific color that has this like effect that this artist named Marble Slinger out of Philadelphia kind of discovered. Is because this is such a new medium and these colors are all within our lifetime being created. Other than that, these colors didn't exist in humans in this type of glass.
Right. Okay.
So it makes it fairly rare in the scheme of the world where it's only manufactured out of like two places. There's two like main color companies out of the United States, and then you have other like generic Chinese colors that their color palette's extremely small. So
Generic Chinese colors. That's a good album.
yeah, which are all fun, but it's just not as pristine as the American color palette. So this one artist just discovered that you can do that, and he used like a sandblaster to relieve different images. And I use like a rotary like tool with little different sized diamond bits, so it's kind of like you're carving into it, so you're a little etching and relieving, and like when you're in there fine, you can like you really feel like if you're like carving away soap or wood, like you're like getting into it and like creating little mini grooves. And
then later it's sweet because you can kind of feel it.
Yeah, add some texture, like
you said, it feels ancient. Like you could buy it brand new right now, but it already kind of has that like I've had it for a minute vibe. Like.
One of the most misconceptions of my work is that it's like ceramic, especially in that piece that you handed me in the beginning, where it's completely
shiny.
The blue caramel color that I use. People think that it's ceramic, and like I know I describe things as like dots and rods, but then you get into like what's called frit, so it's like powder and granule, and it comes into like grits, so it's like how fine of a grit of a powder. And so that's what I actually use to get like that specific color that's a little more I call it teal looking versus this is like black looking. It's technically the same color, but this is in like a tube form that's manufactured in a tube form, and that's manufactured from a powder form, and then I take the powder and I roll it over clear glass, versus this glass is just only that color with no clear mixed under it.
What I'm picking up is the more you talk about in the very beginning, I could already tell it was pretty complex by the way you described it. But now the more that I'm seeing the work and hearing you describe it, now it's really I'm getting a full picture of the endless possibilities. The potential is crazy. Yeah. Because the forms all change, and that's cool. But when you mix it with the limitless amount of pattern plus color plus form, it's just like pick your poison and have some fun.
And then you can like choose like these are both kind of like bongs, I would say, but they're like two different kind of shapes. And so it's like you can go upon like that style shape and be infinite in that form, or you can be infinite in kind of this form.
Does it make you have like a writer's block because there's so many options? Like a lot of times you need to be like pick a lane.
A certain amount of constraint helps the creativity. Otherwise, it's kind of like boggy.
So do you make like 10 of these in a row, 10 of these same shape bongs, and then do the color later? Or do you make one shape, different shape, different shape, different shape?
It kind of just depends on like where I'm at in my process of like creating.
Yeah.
So like...
Or what you have in the shop.
Like that piece right there, it's called a spoon pipe, and right here closest to me in the middle, right there, like that's a spoon pipe. Like that's your classic, like...
Fat bowl.
Everyone smoked out of a spoon pipe. Like if you smoked out of a glass pipe, you smoked out of a spoon pipe. Versus like a hammer or Sherlock shaped dry pipe. So like for instance, like that shape, I've been really trying to refine and getting like this classic kind of thing, and that's kind of my own shaping too.
I like the flat nose.
Yeah, and you can stand it up like that. Okay. So it's like this cool thing. So it's like. Okay. There's multiple ways.
That almost
looks like a chimney
shape.
Yeah. So it's like, like the display of that like looks cool too. So I'm like designing things of like thinking of how I'm going to display it as well, and that are making it like more unique to me. If I made that same shape in a pipe, like
without the stand-up feature.
Yeah, without the carving part, like eventually it would be like the idea would be like, like I made that pipe based upon just that shaping.
Nice.
And it's like very unique to just like me and like a spoon pipe. So like that I've been making like 10, 20 of them, like, and refining it and just being able to like repeat that. And like when I was like learning how to blow glass, like a very common thing in the very beginning is like you get very excited about making things and be like, oh, look at this, look what I made, and you come to your friends and stuff, and like, yeah, that's great, and you want to like encourage them, but it's at the same time like once you're in it for so long and like you make so much stuff, you're like, I'm not sorry if it's crude, but it's like that's not impressive. Like keep putting in your work, like good job, but like keep going. Like when you make quick steps and stuff, it'd be like more of a wow moments. But one of the early things, like one of the mentors told me was like, oh, that's great, now do it 10 times. Yeah. And it's like, try to repeat that, try to make that exactly again. Like that's if you've actually like made something. Yeah, because it's like beginner's luck is like, I mean, I'm a sucker for that. Like I'll be like go to make something the first time, be like almost like perfect from what I'm going for, and then I'm gonna like mess it up a handful of times after that.
Well, you speak to one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. That was, don't practice until you get it right. Keep practicing until you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've actually heard that a few times. I've heard it told to myself and other artists by different people, different mentors. Like, that's dope. Let me see the next hundo.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay. And then, like, it's kind of a benchmark where, like, almost like we were talking off air about the podcast. Like, how I said that we had a deal. We're doing minimum 50. We're going to try to do a hundo. Sharing with our audience, like, we want to do this, but, like, you got to set, even nobody had to tell us that. We didn't have a podcast mentor. Like, do this many. We're just like, do this. There's no way we're going to find out unless we crank through these. And not just to do dime a dozen, but to refine it, to make it better, and I see that, like, I'm kind of jealous, but except for the way I paint, and I've learned this too about recently with graffiti and aerosols, is that when you do bang stuff out, you're just like sharpening the mind's eye, like real, so much when you're out of the contemplative, it can become while you're making the work.
Yeah.
You could be doing one thing and almost kind of thinking about some next level stuff while you're doing it, but like these process oriented activities, it behooves you to like make the next 50, make the next 20, not just to hit numbers, but like in those numbers is the next answer, the next benchmark.
Yeah, I feel it's like this weird like shift of like creativity, like in the beginning, at least for me, and like it's kind of like I see like that as like a really solid path to follow, which is like in the beginning it's kind of like pump out as much as you can, like you gotta put in the time, like there's no like we're running on a clock here, so it's just like as much as you can, and then there's so much development and exploration in that, and you just like you gotta like keep going while you're young, kind of like mentality. And then I feel like, and it's kind of where I'm more approaching with my work, where it's like, oh, I've actually created a style within a defined style on myself and stuff, and it's kind of like this like more of like sometimes like the thought and how much you like think about it is like just more now important as like the intention of it. So like
come together.
Like I just have this like I always like I'm a very visual person, so like I always have these like cartoons running in my head, and so like the cartoon is like these like two artists like going at it, and one's like is like the like
the hair,
the like crazy just like disheveled artist like always in existential crisis, and is just like painting and just working their ass off and just putting all this time and effort into this painting and just killing themselves, breaking their back. And then right next to him it's like it's competition, and it's this Zen Buddhist just sitting there for hours just staring at this painting. And then just like the clock is running up, and it just finally just comes up and just does this perfect one stroke circle, and it's just like all gazing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, you know, it's like this competition and stuff, and it's like the Buddhist win is like more gorgeous and beautiful, but it's like so simple.
Crank through it.
Yeah, but it's just
It's
all
not
that,
necessarily effortless.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just only apparent effortlessness.
But to like how like to like these like questions that you get from people in like, how much time did you take on that? How much did you spend on that? And be like, do you want me to tell you how long I thought about this piece?
Right.
Like that's like so valuable. Like that's countless hours.
Yeah.
That's like taking up space in my mind that I could have been doing or thinking about something else.
I have a kind of a off the hip answer that I've developed from doing plein air painting, because Nancy Anderson, shout out to Nancy, told me this once. She's like, you know, now that we're in social media, and she's got a couple years on me, but she figured out really quick. She was like, she was like, my advice, don't put the amount of time it took you to make it, because people get it twisted right away. They're down to get hooked on that time, and they either give you props for doing it. They'll be like, oh, you did it so fast, or they'll be like, oh, you did it so fast that it can't be worth that much. And so, but both of them, you can't win either way. So she's like, the only way you win is you take that time out of it and just give them the artwork. You know, it's one thing if it's a time lapse. So I put a different spin on it when I'm in plein air, because people will see I can do a 5 foot piece, and I'm cranking it out, and you're going to get that question, how long have you been working on this? And I always tell them to build in the non-dismissiveness to qualify it. It's like, 25 years and 3 hours. To let them know that like, that's all it took.
Yeah.
The last 3 hours are important, but the 25 years before that, crucial.
Well, this speaks to what we talked about in that earlier episode about that poster you got, where it's like, when you're buying a piece of art, you know, all these things that went into it, that's what you're really buying. You're not buying the time that just went to the fabrication.
That's good. So what's your go-to then? Like,
kind of the same thing. Just be like, 10 years. It took me 10 years to do this.
Perfect.
But I feel like
it's like education for art lovers, though.
Yeah, exactly. I take that time to like educate somebody in the importance of it. The physical time, it's the amount of time that I built up the skills in order to do that. Like, you know, it took me 10 years in order to do this in 20 minutes.
Yeah. So like when people are doctors or lawyers, in America especially, they'll be like, oh, you went to law school, you went to medical school, which it definitely is impressive. But like, most artists that went to that much school are usually professors or teachers. But like, if it's not in academia, they just like, people that aren't artists, they don't jump into that boat like, oh, you didn't do your 10,000 hours like in art school, you did it in your garage. But it's like, does it really matter? Like, you know, either way you did it, you know. So it's cool to see that like and things that can happen quick too in glass. I'm sure like when you connect something, or there's certain features where like you did it just right, you're like, oh, it's kind of easy. But like, just to even hold the tools right, or have the spacing or the timing of the heat or whatever it is you're doing.
And this goes back to even a question that you asked earlier about like the infinite and like having like writer's block or something. Like there's definitely like points of like, I would say like writer's block. Like right now, like I was really writing like those perfume bottles. I was really working on these shapes. And so like right now in my mind, I'm like, I don't have any like specific project. And this class got some ideas going, but that's like side things that's like exploring, then like, okay, refining some other things. So there becomes like times like that, but it's like, I can sit there and like make anything, but it's like, one, there's always prep work to do. Like you can just make prep work for days
and clean,
like
manage the studio. Or...
I mean, that kind of stuff is like, you know, like I love having a nice studio and stuff, but like everybody has different approaches. Like one of my mentors early on was like, don't bother cleaning. You're always going to be cleaning. You could spend the time cleaning your bench that you would be like making something. Yeah. And so like, you know, some people have like fairly chaotic like workspaces. So when
you say prep, then what specifically what would be prep?
So like everything saying comes into like rods and tubing. So like tubing in like clear comes in like, what is it, like 4 foot pieces of tubes, and you gotta like chop and break that down in using a few different methods in order to get like a piece of small workable size glass from like these starting points. So it's like breaking down tubing, you know, if I'm like making a bunch of something, like I could like work on making a bunch of color prep. And so it's just like I spent all day breaking down clear tubing and then rolling it in glass color and melting that down, getting that even, rinse and repeat. And so like
the process is it fun too? Like after you do all that process and you're all geared up.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Licking your chops, like...
Oh, yeah, because then you're just like, oh, like, what do I want to make? Like, oh, this looks good. Look, this looks shiny. And so, like, I mean, I definitely spend a crazy amount of time, like, prepping and just having, like, things that I can just, like, pull off of the fly and, like, make really quick.
I just thought of this right now, but it's a sidebar. If we have artist friends, which I'm sure we do, or new friends we haven't met that are listening to this... I'd love for we'll do like a giveaway or something. If someone could come at us with a cartoon version of your fevered pitch and your Zen Buddhist.
Oh.
We need two cartoons of Corey.
I'll make you a custom.
Yeah.
I'll make you a custom.
That's a challenge, artist challenge. Yeah. So
yeah.
what's the one character? Zen Buddhist.
A Zen Buddhist and like the disheveled like
frenzied artist.
Yeah, like you know, like self-destructive, like we, you know, like
Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, exactly. Like always in
exactly.
existential crisis of their life.
All right, so that's your assignment. All the fans out there, let's see what you got. We'll get some fan art.
Yeah. I want to make a sitcom out of this, so we need some storyboards.
It's probably coming.
It's just going in my mind. It's just like very visual things.
Yeah, it's kind of like the classic, the Bugs Bunny.
The devil and the angel on the shoulder.
Yeah. And then in like certain moments, I'll be in things, and then like everyone starts turning into cartoons, and like everyone's like little like subtle things in there like are a little like animated now. Like I see them way more highlighted about them.
One of mine, if I could confide, is more like a war table, like where I look up and it's kind of all my faces or different versions of me, and there's like a general and like a secretary, and like, you know, everybody's down to business, and then like also the artist guy, like a few artists over there, like, yeah, we'll get there, it'll work out, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But I see this big round table, it's like a conference room, all these fuckers in my head, but it tends to work out. That's a new feature. That's gonna bring us to our last segment, Corey. Now we're showing for you guys listening at home, we got all these killer pipes and smoking devices, just beautiful pieces of glass artwork, and all functional. But also, we've already seen it. Not only could you use it, but you can display it. Tell us all your social handles and like where can people get your stuff? Do they come to your studio? Do they go to like the place in Noops? What is it?
Peace of Mind OC.
I assume that's PIECE.
PIECE. Yeah.
Nice.
OC.
And they're in Newport Beach, California.
Yep. Newport Beach down on Balboa Peninsula.
And then what about like online or whatever?
Yeah, online you can find me on Instagram at Corki's Portal. Corki's Designs is my website. There's a few random little products on there. I'd like to...
Is that also with the I? Is that Corki's Designs
Corki
with an I?
With an I,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So that I have some stuff on there. It's not super up to date. I'd like to get some more fresh stuff, but I make so many unique one-off things that it's hard to be like, I put this up on there and then that's like, that sells, or I'm like in person, I sell it and I'm like traveling and then it sells online. I'm like, oh my gosh, what I gotta do.
Someone impractical, like I found that like the Instagram kind of mode is more nimble than a website mode. Website's almost like an archive. Like the website's like the museum of your art.
Exactly.
Whereas like Instagram's like, get to Skrill. Like, I need to get paid today. Like if you want to right now, you probably could come here, but we're not live, but it'd be dope if we were. They could just like come later and I'd get a piece.
Hit me up anytime. I'll constantly like FaceTime people or take videos and pictures of like my stuff at home because I ship all over the country, all over the world.
I think it'd be cool to see.
I just sent a piece. I didn't send it, but like the collaborative piece that I made went to like Israel like a week or so ago. Like,
cool, man.
So
that's
mostly Instagram. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of stores like my friend's store in Newport, but like all over the country, there's stores that have bought my work, and you can buy it in their stores.
Yeah, it's killer. And, you know, people don't think about like glass. If they've cracked a code, you guys, because if you think about like all the art galleries in Laguna, right? There might be a Chihuly, like type, like sculpture or whatever. But like, there's not like the bong shop's probably making bank. You know, like they're flipping pieces from so many different artists. But people don't come in, like tourists don't come in, like, oh, let me go see this dope art. That's a sculpture that I can't even afford, or I might break, or who can afford it? But like so many people that are like, dude, I'm getting that today. Like, let me get this.
Yeah,
this little unique piece. So you guys have like transferred, like the glass artists have like cracked a code between like practicality as far as like exhibition space, but also like the marketplace, like things that you can use and buy and sell and
functionality,
trade.
like the whole industry, like as much as it is like an art, there's always been like a capitalist mentality behind it too. So it's just like learning how to do business with people and like work as a team, and like we can do glass, and it's like everyone can make money. You know what I mean? Like your friends can sell it. You can make pieces, and your friends can go sell pieces to their friends and like make money, and like
it's just cool how it's like almost a hoodwink. It's like some of the dopest work, and but then like also like there's people that don't see it, like so there's collectors with like high level stuff, like pieces that could smoke out of, but you don't because they're collector's items. But there's also like there's collectors that like buy glass sculptures that probably like don't get down with like the glass, like something you would see.
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's pretty freaking cool because it's like if I imagine somebody like buys a $20,000 sculpture and hangs in their house, they're gonna bring it in their house. It's gonna be privately hung, and it's gonna be only shown to their friends and things like that. But like time and time again, like in our community, somebody buys a $20,000 pipe, and like everyone's first thought is like, I'd be afraid to like break it. It's like, it's just don't be clumsy, like don't be like super like there's protocols and levels of like how to act and things like that around this stuff. But it's like there's not too many like things that's like somebody buys a $20,000 piece, and then they're like carrying it in a Pelican case into a shop, and then like everyone there gets to like experience it and then smoke out of it. So like cool. You make friends with the person, and then you can be like sometimes offering, or you'd be like, hey man, can I hit your piece? Like
I love that crossover to where like you assign the same value.
Yeah.
And the difference being all that reusability, sharing, community versus just isolation on a pedestal. You know, and not to think that's just a different thing, but
yeah, like, it's just different lanes.
It's neat that it's like the same material, though. Or, you know,
yeah, totally.
It's
a super unique, interesting lane. Like, I've since I was selling glass, and before I was like really blowing glass, I would like sell glass at a shop and be like, and this is my own passion of it. Be like, I've never seen something that you can come in here and you can buy for $10,000 and everyone and their mother can use it, and then we clean it, and depending on the artist and like where it's at in the industry and things, like I've seen it time and time again, is like in 6 months that piece is worth $15,000. Wow. And that person, and like you go and buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it immediately loses value. But like you walk out of the store, that could gain value. Like, and especially if you're like an influencer type on Instagram or something like that. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. So for everybody listening, all of Corki's pieces just went up in price. So yeah, we got plenty of deals. We got all the sales. Hey, also Corey's one of our mainstays at the 1980. What used to be the $100 or less sale, long ago, many moons ago. Now it's just our holiday art sale.
That would be hard.
So yeah, it's not happening. Don't worry about that. That was for like nostalgia.
Yeah.
But now we have the first Saturday in December. our holiday art sale, and you've always been a big part of it. And we want to say thanks for coming and bringing such good energy. And when you come to that, it's so cool because like you set the tone for like pop-up artists. Like Corey comes with a whole store. It's almost like, again, like the cartoon reference. Like if you pulled out a Pelican case and it just transformed into like this booth.
Exactly.
Like that's what happens. And it's really cool. And it's neat because a lot of the customers that come that day, they don't see like that you were there the night before and setting up for 6 hours. It's get just right. And then when they come in, they're like, oh, this is nice. There's a rug and like a lane. You can go like aisle 1 or aisle 2. There's a couple dogs. Like you can smoke if you want.
Yeah.
Corey's corner goes off. It's the portal out there. You've also hooked us up with on our, I guess, westerly gate. You hooked us up with a gate size, so it's a 2-car wide by 7-foot high black metal gate, and Corey lit it up and put a dope portal on it. And it might have been one of your biggest murals at the time. I'm not sure.
I'd say that's up there in the biggest murals. Yeah,
it definitely makes me want to open the gate all the time.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that was
not
right
physically.
before-
I just want to like walk through it.
yeah.
That was right before I did my show, and
Yeah.
our entrance was right through there, so that was like super perfect. It kicked us up that extra little notch.
Yeah.
We have one more segment we want to do with you, Corey. We talked a lot about going to festivals. You've been to festivals as a person, just as an artist, is going to have fun.
Yeah.
We've also vended, Paint Out Live, and all in California, and multiple festivals like all around. Could you tell us? Most of the time, everything's like kumbaya, like at the burn, everything's good, but there's still some times where you're like, it just grinds my gears, like just get out of my way or whatever. Like, is there a pet peeve when like you're vending, like if somebody's like kicks over your stuff, or like just it's an educational moment right now for people like to help them out, something that like another artist, or like don't be late.
Like how to be prepared more.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any like things for other artists because
Like, can I borrow your extension cord, bro? That kind of thing.
No, because like when it comes down to vending, it's like, and this is like things that I get from like where I pop up, and I'm like saying like from just things I've got from other people. It's like every time, like it's never gonna be perfect. So it's like you could have been, it's like. You could be so dialed and think you're so dialed, but it's like your next event, you forgot a step stool. This one, you forgot your extension cord. So it's just like we're there as a community and things.
Being nimble.
Yeah.
What's one thing? What's one thing you forgot to like just really like for me like usually like a phone charger will get, because you get to the point where you're like, oh, my time lapse, and then something else. Like I should have had my power bank. What's one thing you could forget where you're like, dude, what are you thinking? Or you got to call your girlfriend, or call somebody like, dude, you got to bring it.
What would that even
I forgot my dog.
yeah, exactly.
You forgot Billy.
Like these types of questions, I like on the spot. I'll always be like, and I'll find something that'll be an all right answer, and then like I'll walk out of here and I'll be like, that was the answer. Like, duh, that was it the whole time. But
we will wait. So
off the top of my head, I'm just like, maybe just like labels, sticker labels, like pricing and stuff.
Tough to people to buy stuff and they don't know how much it costs.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just like refining that. I've been really, diving deep into like vending, human psychology, and consumption, and like the
sales
feng shui. Like the feng shui of like how your booth moves, how people are moving in and out of your space, and like what are they getting hung up on, what are they not. Like, what do they see when they walk in? And, like, is that, like, deterring them to just do, like, a little over-the-shoulder, like, gaze walk by and things like that?
Lucky Lou.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's high level, man. I mentioned that watching you set up your booth. This whole
chair.
Yeah, sit here for a while, or an empty chair.
No, that's
forgetting
that's
a chair.
Yeah, like
sweet.
sitting at your booth, and you're like a comfy chair is like when you just stand there, and then you're like, it gives off this more like thirsty vibe of like, hey, I'm here to sell, versus like
You're just chilling.
Yeah, like I don't care if you want it or not. And then like you start looking at it, then I'll start shooting my thing. But like me leaning back, casually busy over here in the corner or something like that, like it's gonna give somebody their own private moment to like sit with your stuff and not feel like someone's over their shoulder, like doing that. So I feel like that presence is like there's a time and place to be like, oh, I'm going to stand up and like be eye level with you, or I'm just going to be like lower than you and just like feed you information as you need.
So don't, all you younger artists out there, or veterans that are about to set up for your show, when you're loading the truck, don't forget the chair.
Yeah. Chair.
And a guest chair.
And don't underestimate
100% a guy's chair. A guy's chair is always a good move.
You never know who you're gonna meet.
Yeah, exactly. And like just having the host for something, there's been so many times there'd be like, I just have the guest chair for, it's that the rotating chair for people, and like oh, I just need to rest my feet. Like, yeah.
Or the homie, when you inevitably have to take a break and somebody steps in, here I always tell artists, like, tell me a little bit about your work, or tell me a lot about your work. Because whether you're here or not, or definitely when you're not here, I'm going to pitch your stuff. It's whether or not I'm pitching it with the most information or the least information. I'll make a careful assessment, but if it's on the wall, I'm like, this thing looks like a WWE Ancient Wisdom Aztec Intercontinental title belt. And I bought it for that reason.
Wait, for those of you on audio only, that's exactly what it looks like.
And I bought it for that reason. But what you need sometimes is like the guest artist who comes and has your back. So if you're vending, we've all been there. Like, dude, I gotta dip to the car, and it's just like, no worries. You have those like immediate broships, or it could be a guy or girl. It doesn't matter. Like whoever's your neighbor. Like, dude, you got me. And then it's fun when it's your turn. And then I learned this before from this African dude. He was pitching it. I think it was his cousin's work. It was at an Anaheim Convention Center. I was way over my skis, and I was like just starting off. And then it was like a house sale, so like they had like jacuzzis and decks and stuff, and then also some art. But this guy was slanging piece after piece, and I'm like just happy to have a booth. And I like stand upright and like, I got anything in my teeth? Like, hi, people, 10,000 people today or whatever. It was like so much. And then like in a quiet moment, he came over to my stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, I just noticed that you're crushing over there. You seem very comfortable. I was like, I'm super green. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, my stuff's all right, but my labels were whack. And some of them didn't have, and my work was all over the place, even aesthetically. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, you're here. He's like, it's good. He's like, watch. And he's like, go over there. And then I left my booth. And he waited till the next qualified person came by, and he grabbed him. And he's like, told his whole story, spinning him for like 20 minutes. And he's like, I told a story. He goes, it's the story that I felt about your work. But he goes, that's what had to happen, or whatever. That's the pitch. He's like, it's your work. Now, if I can do it and I don't even know your work, you can do it. And I was like, dude, strong.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Wow. I find that it's like the more you can like talk about the work and explain it, and like, because it's like, even as like a consumer myself, or if it's like a non-artist person that collects work, it's like when you do bring these pieces to people and things, the more you talk about it, the more you feel like you can like connect with people and things like that. And yeah, that's kind of like, I have a whole artist rant that reminds me of.
Cool. Which one?
So it's like this idea of like why, like what is the purpose of like what do you do? And so like in this deep thought of like what is like the purpose? What do we do here? And my mind goes into like spirituality and like that, like religion. And so for like simplistic language, we'll say like God, for instance, right? Like that's like the contemplation of it, like human existence, right? And so, but there's a bunch of different infinite names to call God. And so for this conversation, I'm going to call it the creator. So like the creator, the story of the creator has created this universe, this reality in which we exist and live in. And through similarities, we connect deeper with people. Like, I like to say, like, you like that that movie, you like that band, like, did we just become best friends? Like, you know, like, so through like similarities, we become closer and connect with people. The worst thing that you could do to somebody besides physical harm is like solitary confinement and disconnect them from like people and things, right? So this idea of like the creator, we don't know anything about it as much as any human wants to say about it. So the only thing that we have in common with the creator is to create. And so as long as you're creating, you're connecting with the creator. And that's like the purpose of living, is to create. And like, other than that, like, you're not connecting with that.
Solid, dude.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to one-up that.
No, sir. I could try, but I cannot succeed.
That is one of the better artist rants. Tonight, at least, for sure.
Yeah. That's been on repeat for probably like 10 years. In like slightly different renditions. This one was probably like a little more condensed and talking faster, but.
I love it, dude. We're charged up. I'm with that. We're about to wrap, but I do want to kind of forecast, like, where are you going to be? Like, is there another trip? Summer's coming up. We're not quite to Memorial Day. Are you going to be at LIB, Lightning in a Bottle? Are you going to make it up? Do you have a plan? Where can people see you vending, and or where are you just going to go to have fun?
This year I got a staple to my year is Josh Tree Music Festival. That's the next thing coming up.
When is it?
That's in May, mid-May, like the 16th, 17th. And then I'll be at Lightning in a Bottle assisting Amy Kells there with her stuff. And then I'm really excited about the fall. I have Bhakti Festival, which is a yoga festival, and then I have Joshua Tree Festival again. But the big thing is it's called the Joshua Tree, or it's called the Highway 62 Art Tours. And it's something that happens every single year in the high desert in Joshua Tree, where they, all the artists kind of come together and they have like a map and a magazine and a whole bio thing, and artists open up their studios for 3 or 4 weekends in a row.
Is that October? Or what is it?
I think that's in October.
And so this is like Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, 29 Palms.
Yeah, Wonder Valley. Okay. Yep. All those kind of landers.
Sweet. So you just get the map and just go?
Exactly. So you pay to and submit your like information, and then you're part of the magazine. They have an app that you can like see like all the different studios and stuff. So I'll be splitting that with my friend Jenna. Will be popping up at her house and at her studio rather than my studio. The collaborativeness for like, 2 full days in a row and multiple weekends is a lot easier to. I like to like split a booth or something like that with like
takes a little pressure off.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can go take a bathroom break and things like that, and like and someone's got your back, and so that's like a big thing that I've been liking to do rather than like, here's my solo thing and I just need to do me. Yeah. And so it's like,
it's always fun.
Yeah, it attracts more people. So
and then then at the end of the year you'll be here for the
exactly. So this is like my dreams are like, I'm really refining and making these goals or dreams. But the goal is to like pretty much have almost a repetitive year for at least some years. I like to just be on a run where it's just like your show is like a staple to my my holiday kind of thing. Like I finish up my fall things and then I'm like shifting gears into my holidays and prepping for my own personal online sales. But then your guys' show over here, which is like I start prepping for that in September typically.
Hear that, kids?
Being like getting merch and like the hoodies done and having selection of that and glass and all sorts of things. So
nice.
Yeah, I kind of
It sounds like you got a hell of a year ahead of you.
Yeah, and I'm really excited.
I look forward to seeing you at some of these events, and wish you the best. And just want to say thanks for coming and sharing your story and all your beautiful work. And the the hoodie I have on and the piece I got above you and the glass I'm drinking out of. And Eric, do you have any closing remarks?
Did it be remiss of me to attempt to even top, like you said earlier, what you just said here? I do want to edify for the entire podcast audience that I took over Corki's space. The direct heir to what he has created.
That's good vibes.
Yeah,
that's good vibes.
It is, and I didn't know you for quite a while after moving in here, but I remember I came in and I was thinking there was going to be like a 3-month wait list for this place because it was such a badass spot. I figured the demand would way outstrip the supply, and I emailed you cold, and you're like, actually, we just had somebody move out. You want to come down and check it out on Friday? I'm like,
That's the name of the game. Like I was saying, like, I've been thinking about this spot for so long, but I had never wanted to reach out because I wasn't ready. And with whether it was my art or financially or whatever I was living, I just had to finish up. So it was like same situation where I was like fed up where I was living, and I'm like, I need an art studio. Like, I can't make art out of this corner of a garage that I'm in. Like, I need to expand my art studio.
Dude.
And so it was kind of like, I hit up Jesse Cole, be like, thinking this exact same thing. Like, oh, there's nothing going to be available. And he's like, oh, dude just left. Like, you want to come check it out tomorrow? And I'm like, I mean, like, I was thinking, like, maybe in a couple months, but, yes, all right, cool.
And
then it's like, oh, I go check out the place the next day, and I'm like, well, I asked for this thing in my life, and it's just immediate yes, and it's just like, well, yeah, let's write it. Like, there was no reason not to.
Hey, brother, you were ready when you came here, and you sound like you're ready for more and more.
Yeah, I was sad to leave. It was like, I didn't feel like my time was over.
That's all good. I think you're just getting started, man. I'm stoked for your journey, and like I said, thanks for sharing it with us and being back here. I have a good feeling you'll be back on the pod. Like maybe before Christmas, we should do like a group show. We'll do a hot seat. Where go. Have every artist for like 10 minutes.
Dude, that'll be the live show.
I love it. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming, and thanks for all your brilliance and goodness and kind-heartedness and wisdom, and thanks to all of our listeners and audience. And Jill and David back there for hooking us up with all the lights. With that, we're gonna wrap another episode of Location 1980's Art Podcast from my co-host Eric Ringman, our featured guest Corey Clark, and myself Jesse Fortune. We're out. Thank you.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Love you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.